episode of My Car Shop. This is going to be just a general episode, at least to start. We may have 2 episodes today. We finished the priming of the fenders yesterday for the 47 Ford project, and I'll probably get started on sanding the driver's side fender for the first time tomorrow or later today. The other fender needs to sit for a couple more days to allow it to shrink. I'm old school. I started doing all this stuff. Everything was lacquer paint. So we used to prime a part and have to let it sit out in the sun or in the heat for a week or 2 to let everything shrink so sand scratches didn't show up later. And that's not as true with these modern products, but I have discovered over the years of using this stuff for the last 20 years or so that if you don't, especially in these cold temperatures, if you don't let things dry and cure good, they will shrink a little bit and you will end up with some blemishes and scratches that could show up. So got them out in the sun today. Not the warmest day, but I'm not in a long sleeve shirt, so that should tell you something. It's probably about 60 right now. So all that stuff is setting up a little bit. I want to do a little rearranging. I've been thinking about my priorities for summer, and obviously 47 Ford is a big one. But you've seen one of the other cars I have. I have a bunch, but this one you've seen in some of the videos, and I decided today that I want to move the Challenger out and get it out of my other garage and get it over here. It's my 68 Pro Street Dart GTS. It's registered with the GTS registry. It is a GTS. Was a 340 automatic car. It has a 360 on nitrous in it now. We'll do a little overview on that later. So I want to move the Challenger out where the 74 Dart is, put the 74 in the other garage, and get the 68 in here. So the story on that car, 5 years ago, maybe a little more than that, I had it right outside the barn here and was idling it and sitting in the car, and all of a sudden a huge ball of fire came out through the hole in the hood because it's got dual quads on a tunnel ramp, and car caught fire. So I jumped out with my fire extinguisher and got it put out, and it burned up the wiring and caused all kinds of problems. We got it fixed. Is it last year or year before last? I don't remember now. Got it running again. But I need to change some fuel lines on it. That's what happened back then, was one of the fuel lines blew, dumped out raw gas on the header, and it ignited, of course, and caught fire. So it's running, driving. I think the videos that you've seen for either the intros or the extras for the show are of that car in the last year or so, or even this spring. But there's a few hoses that really need to be replaced in there before I can do much with it. And I do want to drive that car this summer if we ever get out of quarantine. So I want to get that car in here and have it here so I can tinker away on that between things while I'm working on the 47. So that's going to be what's happening for a little while. Quite frankly, I just need a break from sanding also. I'm tired, but we'll get some of that done later on today. So welcome to this episode of My Car Shop. very, very cold-blooded with that tunnel ram, and I don't have much fuel, so I didn't let it warm up. So she's popping and farting a bit, but super fast car. I love this thing. I built this car, oh man, started on it when my daughter was born, so I bought it in 94, probably started on it in 95. Finished the first iteration of it, had it tubbed and narrowed and on the road by 2000, yeah, probably about 2000. And it's on its second engine, second transmission, second set of rear tires. Fun car. I just love this car. So anyway, we'll go over this thing later on, but there you go. Just for information, the Challenger is going to go right there where the 74 Swinger is, and I'm going to stick the 74 Swinger over there in the other garage with the 69 Charger for now, so we don't have so many cars sitting out in the yard. And a little bit more rearranging to do here in the shop, but we're moving forward on my plans for today. So here it is in the shop. 1968 Dodge Dart GTS. It's got a 360 with a 175 shot of nitrous on it, port nitrous. It's been tubbed, narrowed. It's got an 8-point roll cage in it. Did all the work myself except for the paint. I did all the work up to the paint and then handed it off for final finish and painting because I was just tired of working on it. Car is just tons of fun. There's a lot of work to be done on it yet, but a lot of damage from the fire that happened a few years ago. Got to replace some chrome and get the engine compartment cleaned up again. The fire extinguisher did some damage to it. Well, we did that work on it. My buddy Brad came up and helped me, and we put a set of headers on it because the headers were shot. So those have been replaced finally. We figure on the bottle it's between 500 and 600 horse. Motor's not terribly built, but built enough. It's got a big 292 508 Mopar cam in, and I think that's the specs. Tires on the back are 31 18 50 15 Mickey Thompsons, so they're 18.5 wide, 31 inch tall. It's got a 457 gear in it on a spool. She gets with the program. Wasn't built to be a show car. It was beat to built the crap out of, and that's all it does. Probably only put 200 miles on it in all the years I've had it, but they've been 200 hard miles, as I mentioned. It's been second set of tires, second transmission, second engine, so that tells you how hard I abuse it, and that's what it's for. That's why I built it. It's my stress relief. So many stories about the car. It's got a fiberglass front clip on it. It's got unlimited products fenders. Would never buy those again, but that's what's on it. It's got an AAR hood, a fiberglass hood. The AAR fiberglass hood, if my memory is correct, they were just coming out with the GTS hood at the time, and it was the first one out of the mold, if memory serves me. And so of course the first thing I did was give them the dimensions and say, great, cut a hole in it, because I got that tunnel ram on this car. Another interesting feature, I'll go back there and show you the fuel cell. Okay, so an interesting piece of information about this car. It's got a 20-gallon NASCAR fuel cell in it. And interesting tidbit here, it's so close to the deck lid, there's supposed to be a little handle right here for taking that off. And I had to cut that off of there because it was so close that that handle didn't fall down, which it sometimes wouldn't. It would hit the deck lid right up there and smash the crap out of the deck lid. So there's the blue bottle of happiness right there, laughing gas. So anyway, I was in engineering the fuel system back 20 plus years ago. I did a lot of high performance fuel pump work and decided to build a one-off fuel system for this. So this has I don't remember which pump it is. It's an inline EFI pump, but it's an inline, but the fuel pump is right outside the cell there, and then there's a regulator. And so this is what's called a demand fuel system, which means that the fuel circulates out into the pump and then through the regulator and back into the fuel cell, and then goes up to the engine, taking what it needs. So it only draws from the pump what it needs, otherwise it just sits here and rotates. So very much a modern type fuel system that would be on EFI, except I adapted it for carburetor because it only runs about 8 psi. And what that allowed me to do was I didn't have to run another fuel system or anything for the nitrous. I just tapped right into this, knowing that this pump puts out enough horsepower, enough fuel for like up to 1,000 horsepower. And this, as I mentioned, this engine's around 500, 600 on the bottle, so plenty of fuel. Never have seen it waver when I'm into the kitchen on the nitrous. It just works perfect, exactly the way I engineered it. And I always thought it would be a fun product to manufacture and sell, but we never got around to it before I left the auto industry and went on to other endeavors. So nowadays it's probably not that much of a novelty, but this was the prototype I built in the lab, and made it work and tested everything, and flow tested it, make sure everything was good before I put it on the engine. This car's never starved for fuel ever. It just works flawlessly. The only thing about it, the racing fuel's a bit hard on the pump. I think I've had to replace one pump so far in the life of this car. I've got 2 more in the glove box just in case. So just a unique little story on a unique fuel system on this car that works really well. Let's see if we can get you down underneath here so you can see the big old tires under there. Oh yeah, got a good view of those babies. It is a leaf spring car. I've got snubber bars on it. I have it built for, and a lot of it is in there for a set of my own design, traction control, similar to a Caltrax type bar, but I never got around to putting it in. Quite frankly, it works so good just the way it is, I don't care. 8 3/4 rear end, like I said, 457 gear. It's almost embarrassing to show you inside the car, but we'll open it up a little bit here. She's filthy. It's an 8-point roll cage. It's got a Promatic shifter in it. Line lock. She's just dirty. That's part of the reason I want it in here. I never did finish. I put the when I built this car, I wanted a back seat, so that's another unique feature of this car. I put the roll cage through the seat, and I have some upholstering I want to do on that seat eventually, but right now I've just got black duct tape on there, and when I show it, I replace that. It looks pretty good, but right now it's pretty crappy from sitting for about 6 years. So. But this is the 68 GTS, and like I said, it is a GTS. It's registered with the GTS registry. Number 390 something, I think it is. I don't remember. But other thing about this car, it's got a 904 that I built. Transmission's 904 transmission, and it does have a fully manual valve body as well. I did not put a trans brake in it because it's really not a drag car. I've actually never run the thing on the strip. I always intended to, but I never have. We got it in the shop here. I need to replace some of the fuel lines that are a little bit scummy yet from the fire, and one is just a temporary line. I'm actually using a heater hose right now, so that's on borrowed time, and I need to get the real fuel line in there that should be there. It's a 5/8 inch line that comes from the cell up to that manifold block back there, and that's the one that blew that caused the fire. So you can imagine with the high volume pump that's back there how much racing fuel came out of this thing in a short time and the fire it caused. Very fortunate I didn't lose the whole car. Very fortunate it didn't cause really any damage to the body at all. I caught it in time. So, all right. Well, that's going to do it for this special edition on the 68 GTS and just what's going on here in my car shop. Be starting to work on another episode here a little bit later, I'm sure, working on those fenders for the 47 Ford, but that's about it for today on this one. Got things moved around here so I can start working on this. As I was working on it here and doing the video, I also remembered the front tires on this car. Been on it since I built it, so that's since 2000, so they're 20 years old. Tread is like brand new, sidewalls are dry rot, so before I go anywhere with this, I got to go buy another set of front tires for it as well. So they just don't make stuff to last anymore, do they? Hey, thanks for joining us for this episode, this very special one on one of the cars that's one of my favorites. I love driving this car. It drives like a dream. Goes down the road straight as an arrow, rides beautifully. I can't say enough about this car. I absolutely love driving it. The only downside is 6 miles to the gallon on racing fuel that's now running between 8 and 12 miles, or $12 a gallon, depending whether I run Cam 2 or the Citgo Green. That's almost as good. So, but that's what it's got to have. That's what it takes. So I don't drive it that much, but when I do, it's fun. Hey, thanks for watching this episode. Rock on.